Hello, can you guys hear me in the chat? Can you respond? Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for signing up for Whitehacks 2020. This is the first time we're actually doing this online fully. Usually the event is held at SMU, where there's like food, fun, and like all sorts of fun activities. So being the first year that is fully online, do let us know in the chat if there's any issues with the technical side, like sound, the video being choppy. Just voice out any concerns you have in the chat of the Zoom. Also, please refer to the info booklet we sent out to the Telegram broadcast channel. There is a lot of links. There's a Discord link there that you can join for tomorrow's CTF portion where you can chat with people and interact with the sponsors. So that's really important. For attendance wise, please do not use any weird names for your Zoom, especially. Discord wise is not as strict. You can just use any name you want for Discord because the attendance will be taken using the Zoom attendee list. Yeah, so throughout the day, there'll be several talks and workshops, right? During these talks and workshops, we'll be flashing random flags. These flags can be used for bonus points to be redeemed during the CTF itself. And you can't access the CTF platform to input the flags during day one. It will only be available on day two. So please save the flags, be aware of the cap locks, like small letter, big letter, any special characters. Yeah. And if you have any questions, just clarify on the chat of the Zoom or send in a Q&A and we'll address them separately. Yeah. So first off, we'll be having the SIS Dean, Prof. Pang, to be giving you the opening address. Yeah, Prof, please.
Okay, am I on? Hi, James. Are you hearing me and seeing my slide properly? Hello, just checking. Is this going on correctly?
Yeah, you are sharing both screens now. Everyone, you need to open two windows to see both the webcam and the PowerPoint itself.
Well, you can just see my slides. Don't particularly need to see me. All right. Good morning. My name is Pang Hui Hua. I am the Dean of the School of Information Systems at Singapore Management University. Uh, I'm very glad that this workshop can finally proceed and that I see there are so many participants. I'm glad that you can all make it. Uh, now, just a introduction of myself. I am trained as a computer scientist. Over the last 16 years or maybe a bit more than that, a lot of my research interest has been on cybersecurity, which is a very exciting field. And given that all of you are participating in this two-day workshop, you obviously have an interest in that too. Now, there are many aspects of cybersecurity, and I just want to share with you some of them. Uh, in this workshop, I believe you will be exposed to some of the security issues that are systems related. For example, the adware where unauthorized software get installed on your system and then display advertisements or spyware spying on your activities and the data on your machine, ransomware, and so on, and how do you hack devices. In addition to that, there are other system security issues like denial of service, communication channel attacks, side channel attacks, and so on. So those are all very interesting and indeed uh, a big challenge in the software security in software security is how do we build more robust systems that are resistant to this kind of attacks. It is a very interesting field. So system security is one aspect. There is another aspect which is data privacy. How do you protect confidential data from unauthorized views? So one question I can ask is, what information, personal information of yourself, do you think is likely to be found publicly? So if you try hard enough, I think it's quite easy to find the some of the personal information of anybody, especially if you are public, if you have a public, very public role, let's say politician, especially. So things like full name, home address, where you went to school, what are the last four digits of your NRIC, and so on. All those are all available. Now, you may think that this kind of information is quite harmless, but think about the scenario where it's very common that we all have bank accounts. It's quite common that the banks will call someone up and say that I want to check on certain things on your account. And before I proceed any further, I need to verify your identity. So then they proceed to ask you certain questions. So from there, you can get even more information from about you. And then after that, uh, the imposter can then go and authenticate themselves as you to your actual bank. So this is actually quite a problem. Now, I want to relate that there was once my bank actually called me out, and then sure enough, uh, they need to authenticate me. They need to verify that certain information about me. So then I asked, well, you called me. I didn't call you. How do I know you are actually from my bank? Have you tried that? So So then after that, obviously I refused to go any further, and then I gave a feedback on the to the bank through their contact information site. And then the bank actually was very responsive. Someone called me up and said, "Yeah, we received your feedback that you are concerned about our verification procedure, and I'm following up on your feedback. Before go any further, I need to verify your information." So again, got nowhere. So this is really a very tricky issue when it comes to data privacy that we all need to be very careful what information we release. Uh, and in fact, a lot of the information available, available already is already too much. So in cybersecurity, what are the techniques that will be useful for protecting data privacy? So here in this slide, I show you two words. Well, they have been encoded, so it means nothing. So you probably can't make out what they mean. But what if I say that how were the two words produced? How were the encoding done? So if I tell you that the encoding is done by shifting every letter, three letters down in the alphabet. So for example, J would have been originally G, because G, if you shift three letters, it becomes J. So then you reverse the procedure for all the letters here, you get this, good morning. So that's encoding. Now, of course, encoding, so you see here, this is so-called Caesar cipher. Uh, Apparently, this was the procedure that Julius Caesar at that time in the Roman Empire, that was how it was, that was the technique used to protect the messages, communication between the Caesar and the military. But of course, today we see this kind of cipher and we laugh at it because it's so easy to crack. Uh, so now today we have very interesting encryption techniques, which if you are interested, that falls under cryptography. And in fact, in terms of cryptography, there are many interesting challenges that are actually surprisingly, it challenges the intellect, and have very practical applications. Now, one problem we have in cryptography is how do you create a shared secret in plain sight? So, for example, James and I suppose we have never met before in our lives, and then we see each other the first time, and we want to exchange secret information. So we want to exchange messages without anyone knowing what those messages are. In order to do that, we need to first establish a common secret, agree on a common secret, and then use that secret to encrypt the subsequent messages. But all of you are observing the exchange, every exchange between me and James. So how do we exchange? How do we go about establishing a common secret in plain sight of all of you? So this is actually a very basic problem in cryptography. And you think, why is that useful? Actually, it is used a lot by all of you. The first time you go to your bank's website, for example, you try to log in, you have you need to your browser and the bank's server need to establish a common secret so that subsequent exchanges, so whatever information you send to the bank server is encrypted. So that is actually a very practical problem. And the solution, I'm not going to go through. If you are interested in it's just to show you that it involves, the solution is very elegant. If you know the mathematics and if you like mathematics, this cryptography is really interesting. Then another set of problem is fake news and fakes in general. Fake news and increasingly the fake images and videos. I show you this portrait of Mona Lisa. Is very well known, very famous. And look at the three. Uh, I hope you can see the three moving images on the left. That's you show how Mona Lisa would have been like talking. So obviously those are fakes, but look at how realistic they are. So that is so fake news, fake media increasingly becoming a problem, a challenge, because right now if you see that if you, let's say, if you want to go to court as a evidence, you can produce photos or videos. Those are accepted as evidence. But what if technology advanced to a stage where it is no longer possible to tell fake from genuine? So this is, then what are we going to do? So there are issues like how do you change the legal framework as to what is acceptable, what is not acceptable as evidence. There are challenges like how do you go about detecting fakes, and obviously uh, people will be interested in how do you produce fakes, just because it is technically very challenging. And of course, there are legitimate users of this kind of technology other than trying to create discriminating evidence. So with that, I hope I have given you a taste of all the very interesting problems, very interesting work that can go on for that in a cybersecurity role. There are many many kind of job roles that in the cybersecurity sector. So you can just Google this phrase, demand for cybersecurity professionals, and you see a lot of many kind of job roles. Some of them relates to system security, some of them requires cryptography, some of them are more broader, not totally technical. They may be that cybersecurity policy and so on. So but there is a wide variety of job roles. Now, assuming that you are excited about the all the opportunities in cybersecurity, what is the kind of preparation that you need in order to be a cybersecurity professional? Now, the most of the time, the immediate thought would be that, okay, go and do a technical degree, maybe a cybersecurity degree. Uh, but actually, you think of, unless you are going to be very, you know already for the rest of your life, you are going to be a cybersecurity professional, let's say a hacker or a professional with, let's say the defense agency or home affairs. If you are thinking of giving yourself a broader option, let's say that maybe you want to be a cybersecurity chief for Citibank. Now then you need really the kind of preparation is a lot broader, because you not only need to know the technical knowledge and skills, but you need to know how security is applied in the context of the business. And in fact, the whole system. So you need to know more than cybersecurity, which is why there is no just one path. And unless you know already what your career is going to be like for the rest of your life, it is good to have some, certainly that in cybersecurity, but at the same time, you need to have some breadth. Uh, so the local universities have different degree programs that allow you to do various combination of depth versus breadth. And in fact, at Singapore Management University, our school offers 4 different degree programs that cater to students who have different inclination. So information systems major focuses more on how you build, how IT is deployed in the business context. Smart city management and technology major focuses more on smart city solutions, for example, digital banking. Uh, then computer science degree will be a lot more technical. You build focuses on, let's say, how do you build a secure secure vault, for example, or how do you solve this earlier? I show you the cryptography challenge as to how do we establish a common secret in plain sight. And then if you are thinking of more a policy perspective, how the legal framework to govern data privacy, for example, we have a computing and law degree. And also at the SMU, we have a long history of cybersecurity research dating all the way back to 2003. And in all these years, we have not only produced advances in knowledge, but also we have worked with various companies to discover security weaknesses and overcome them. So with that, I'm going to stop here, and I wish all of you a very enjoyable workshop, and I look forward to some of you at least joining the cybersecurity profession. But before that, come to our school. Thank you very much. Over to you, James or Kihao.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Let me just start sharing my slides. By the way, I was from SMU as well. And he's my dean. So I managed to have the opportunity to shake his hand during the graduation. So let me just continue with my slides. Okay. So James, do I just continue?
Yep, you may continue.
Okay. Okay, guys, just a very good morning. So this is your first sponsored workshop, and I'm Kihok here. So I'm also an alumni of SMU, and right now I'm with GovTech, and this sharing itself for the next 45 minutes is really more about getting to know more about GovTech. And of course, I would like that you guys use this opportunity to ask questions. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to raise it out in the Q&A, and I'll actually try to answer them at various segments of this presentation. Okay, so next, sorry, yeah. So just a very quick introduction of who am I. So I joined GovTech through the Technology Associate Program. I'm currently an Associate Cybersecurity Specialist with the Red Team in GovTech. So I specialize in web and network penetration testing, open source intelligence, and cloud security. So these are some of the professional certifications that I hold. So on top of some of these professional profiles, I thought I might just share some of the things that I like to do. Like I like to play hackathons and capture the flag competition, and likewise like you guys as well. That's why you guys are here. And of course, given before COVID-19, I really like to travel, chill a bit, spend some money, eat some good food. Of course, I really like cybersecurity, and that's why I'm here. So recently, I just picked up a new hobby, rock climbing. I used to do kendo in SMU as well. So these are just some of the things that I like to do. And throughout these 2 days, hopefully we can chat more on Discord, and I'll be there and with my team. And hopefully we can get to know more about you guys as well. So it's really not just about you knowing GovTech, but us, GovTech, knowing you. So today's sharing is very simple, just 3 segments. First, to the introduction to GovTech, basically who is GovTech, what is GovTech, and what we do. Then for the second segment, I'll be talking more about how GovTech comes and design all this cybersecurity challenge. So of course, not all challenges are done by us, but part of it is actually sponsored and designed by GovTech. So I just want to share a bit more on how all this design comes about. Then of course, the last segment is really how you as a student can actually interact or experience the journey with us in GovTech. Okay, so far I don't think there's any questions. I'll just move on. So this first segment, getting to know more about GovTech. So who is GovTech and what is GovTech? GovTech actually stands for Government Technology Agency of Singapore. Our mission and vision, we want to engineer a digital government, making lives better. We want to empower our nation with possibilities through ICT and related engineering technology. So I believe you guys probably heard of GovTech in one way or the other, or maybe unknowingly, you might be using products that's built by GovTech. So you might have heard of us through our products as well. For example, like during this COVID period, you probably hear a lot about safe entry when you scan the QR code to enter the business premises. So this is actually a product built by us. Then we also have the contact tracing application called Trace Together. And we have a lot of other products as well, like Go Business, Moment of Life, Parking.sg, and something like SingPass is something that probably more or less most of you here already used before. So GovTech is not just limited to all these products. We do much more. We also provide services to other agencies, but these are some of the key products that you've probably seen or maybe physically or virtually interacted with. So just to give you a quick narrative or quick relative figure. So GovTech itself, right, who do we serve? So we are looking at this 5.64 million users. So I believe this number is probably very familiar to you guys. This is actually the Singapore population. So you guys, Singaporeans, are our target users. So we actually build our expertise, or rather able to deliver this vision and mission through our 5 capability centers, which I'll share more later. So recently, I think we just crossed the 2,500 employees line, and we have, or rather we have and own 600 digital services, manage 3,000 over ICT systems, and we have 227,000 sensors. So this number is to really give you a relative scope or something for you to compare and look at how the scale that we are at right now for GovTech. So I mentioned earlier, how do we deliver our vision mission? It's really through our technology capability center. So what you can think of is that these tech cap centers are like your center of expertise. This is where we develop and we build very core or deep engineering capabilities. First, we have the sensors and IoT. And next, we have cybersecurity. Of course, that's where I'll focus a bit more on cybersecurity in relation for this sharing. Then we have infrastructure, app development, data science, and artificial intelligence. So as mentioned, since we are in this CTF, so naturally I'll share more about cybersecurity as a CAP center. So I just want to highlight that maybe some terms that you might want to take away from this sharing is when I talk about GovTech cybersecurity, I'm actually referring to GovTech Cybersecurity Group. So in short, what I want to say is that GovTech is the lead agency for cybersecurity for all government systems. So what you can take away is that in relation of the government sector or the government system, who's the one mandating policy, assisting agencies, GovTech CSG is the one doing all this work. So what we do is that we spearhead some of the development of policies and assist agencies in complying them. We provide them support when it comes to detecting and responding to cyber threats. We ensure secure development of strategic government products and services. And some unique points about us is that we also provide proactive vulnerability discovery and applied research. So the message here is very simple. Just need to know that when it comes to GovTech cybersecurity, there's this particular group called the cybersecurity group. And this icon is probably something you may or may not seen before. But when it comes to cybersecurity in GovTech, the group of people who are very concerned about cybersecurity is this particular group called CSG, cybersecurity group. And within this cybersecurity group, there's so many components, there's so many divisions, but I can't list them all today. But I'll just share a bit more on this particular division called Advanced Cybersecurity Capabilities, ACC in short. So this division is formed to proactively discover cybersecurity vulnerabilities and threats that are related to the Singapore government. So I'm actually from this division. So what we do on a division is what kind of services we provide. We actually provide VAPT, which stands for Vulnerability Assessment and Penetration Testing Security Assessments. Then we build advanced cybersecurity products. So some of the products or softwares that the government is using is actually built by our team that's in relation to cybersecurity. And we do cybersecurity research. We also perform adversarial simulation. That's something unique. So adversarial simulation is red teaming. In short, basically, you pretend to be a bad guy. You may call them, send them phishing email, do something funny to really test the response or the cybersecurity capability of the agency. We also roll out whole of government level programs. So I just want to highlight more of our work, especially in GovTech CSG as a whole. So I mentioned earlier about this 5.64 million users, but in GovTech, we try to make, or rather contribution back to the global community. So in this case, I just want to highlight some of the work that we have done. Like for example, in this case, one of our engineers discovered this vulnerability in this VLC media player. So I'm not sure if you guys heard of VLC, but in my generation, VLC is an open source media player. So it's like your Windows media player, but it's just a different version. It's an open source one. So for VLC, right, he discovered this vulnerability such that when you actually load a specific file, you can perform arbitrary code execution due to certain vulnerability in the software. So we actually discovered this vulnerability, we reported it, do responsible disclosure, and we created a proof of concept exploit code, and it's available in Metasploit. So I think something interesting is part of the Whitehacks organizing committee. What is our ex-intern Winston? He contributed to this module as well. So you guys can easily Google VLC media player arbitrary code execution GovTech, and you can see some articles about it. So what I want to highlight here is that we don't just serve the local community as much as possible. We want to have a global outreach. We try to empower the community on a global level as well. So next, in 2019 alone, during the course of our assessments, we also, so sometimes, like agency also use certain commercial tools, and these tools may contain vulnerabilities. So what we do is also to perform responsible disclosure. We register CVEs, we do tell the world that hey, there's this problem with this software, and this is how you should fix it. So we also do all these updates through our GovTech CSG Medium post. So that you can actually look up for our posts on our Medium as well to read more about our work, and some of this article we try to focus a bit more on cybersecurity tips and what you can do, some things you can learn about. Then, of course, I think the other interesting thing that recently we did was we made a submission to Black Hat US. So one of our tool that our engineers built was actually nominated for sharing. So we are sharing some of the things that we built for the global community on a global scale as well. So back again, I just want to emphasize that even though I say 5.64 million users, but in GovTech, we try to make all these engineering possibilities available to everyone as well. We try to make sure our engineers, people in GovTech get to expose to the global stage. And if we can, in our ability or in our capacity, contribute back to the global community. So I think that's really a unique selling point for GovTech. So with that, I come to end of the first segment. So maybe I just take a look at some of the questions, if there is any questions, any open questions or all are answered. Okay.
Answer all the random general questions, but feel free to send in questions.
Yeah. So I think you guys are probably very interested about the bonus CTF flag. Don't worry. If you pay attention, that naturally you'll catch it lah. So with that, I don't think you have any outstanding question. I'll just move on. Okay.
So, are you able to see all 19 answered questions?
Not 19 actually. I just see 6 answered questions.
Okay.
But if I miss anything, you can just drop me a note lah.
Sure, will do. Yep.
Okay. So we'll just proceed on to the next segment. So for this segment, I just want to share more about how the GovTech team actually designs out the CTF challenge that you're going to be playing out later. So before I talk more about it, I just want to do a shout out to all the engineers who made it possible from the GovTech team. So first we have Max. He specialized in iOS penetration testing and malware development for adversary simulation. So he's really good at finding bugs in the iOS application, and he's going to do a sharing on tomorrow for iOS mobile application. Next, I have my partner in crime, Kenneth Lee. So he's the one that helped to build a lot of the web challenge here that you'll be seeing tomorrow. So he specialized in development of cybersecurity products. And last but not least, we have two very talented interns who is currently with us, Raghu and Jie Feng. They actually helped to build some of the challenge as well, some of the radio challenge that you'll see tomorrow. So how do we come about designing all these challenges? I mean, I wouldn't say that we are very seasoned seasoned CTF players, but at the very least, what we want is to hope that this experience, there's some learning value. We try to avoid making very guessy challenges. I mean, if we did, I do apologize. But what I want to tell you is that our web challenges, we based it on the OWASP top 10 web application security risk and our very own GovTech VDP program, the vulnerability disclosure program. So I will just share a bit more on what's OWASP. OWASP is actually top 10 is actually an awareness document that talks about recent or rather top trends of what people see when it comes to web application security risk, some of the top attacks, and they tell you what are the attacks and how to test for them and how to solve them, or rather how to mitigate them. So we try to make all these basic challenges on them as well, so that this will give you a very realistic picture on what's the world outside. Then we have our very own GovTech vulnerability disclosure program. Like many mature organizations, they have their own security reporting channels. And this is our reporting channel, which is our very own GovTech vulnerability disclosure program. So I'll just share more about it. So whenever you visit a government website, at the bottom or at the right, somewhere in the page, you actually see this particular link. You click on it, you'll be directed to a GovTech page on the left that you see right now, the vulnerability disclosure program. So why we have such a channel is really for white hat hackers like yourself, white hat hackers. Let me emphasize on white hat hackers to have a channel to report security vulnerabilities. Of course, this is not a bug bounty. We don't reward by money, but GovTech do organize government bug bounty programs. But for this VDP program, I just want to highlight that whenever you see a vulnerability, really feel free to use this channel. You'll be directed to HackerOne. is a very popular bug bounty platform, but for us, we're using it as a for vulnerability disclosure. There's no money involved. It's more about the HackerOne points. But for this, right, we really appreciate everyone's effort to make safer cyberspace, especially within the government sector. If you see any vulnerabilities, you see anything funny going on along with in the government website, or maybe is using some software that's outdated and is vulnerable to certain attacks or exploits, feel free to report it to us. So I just want to show some quick example of how this reporting can be done. So the screenshot you see on the right is a very simple screenshot of observation that the reporter made. Basically, he found some cross-site scripting vulnerability on this government website. He took the screenshot. He reported it through HackerOne. So some key things when it comes to reporting is that you want to look at what's the payload, what's the impact, and how does it, what are the, or rather, where's the site or what's the asset that's vulnerable. Okay, so I think till date, right, since last year, October 2019, we resolved 222 vulnerability reports. So there's a lot of reports out there submitted by the Whitehacks community, and we are very appreciative of their efforts. So we also hope and encourage you, even though you're still studying JC or you might going for NS or going for university, it doesn't matter, because I don't think being a white hat hacker is being restricted by age. You also have the ability to actually help us in this to make Singapore a safer cyberspace. Okay, I think this is something that a lot of people has been asking. Sleeps. Oh, one of the open question. Giving me a $2 note. Okay, it won't work. I'm a public officer. Please. So yes, this is the flag. Yes, as I'm looking at some of the Discord messages, the CTF starts tomorrow. Today is really more of the workshop. Okay, please screenshot. I don't really have too much time here. Just maybe 10 more seconds. I see that you guys are very active. Someone contributed a screenshot. I guess I can move on already. Okay, so we come to the last segment, basically how we can experience the journey with GovTech. So it's more about how we can help you grow your career in technology. So what are three, or rather main outreach channels? Firstly, we have the internship, then we have the Smart Nation Scholarship, and we have the youth talent community. This is all from your perspective, how you can actually work with us. So let me share a bit more about internship. Basically, you get to work on a cutting edge research topic, contribute to strategic national projects. Oh, I saw one question. How do we get to use the flag? I believe, so throughout the day, right, there'll be flags being shown during the presentation. What you need to do is to pay attention to this presentation, and that you can submit the flags tomorrow when the platform is live. Okay, I believe I answered the question. Let me just continue. So for the GovTech internship, this is just an overview. The application period is open all year round, and there's really no hard limit on how long you have to work with us for the internship, but we do recommend at least a 10-week period for the project to be meaningful. Yes, don't worry, the project, or rather the internship is open to JC students as well. So we also have a JC student in my team who come here for their internship. So what we are really looking out for is passionate people. Yes, definitely the interns get paid, don't worry. We offer a very competitive compensation package. So for internship, right, you come in, you get to choose projects from the various domains as our capability center, app development, cybersecurity, sensors and IoT, data science, and AI. So what you really gain is the exposure to the tech industry, some of the national initiative. You get to know our people, mentorship. Of course, you get to meet like-minded people as well, people who enter the internship with you. So these are all the networking opportunities. So some key milestones for the internship. We have the induction. You come in, we really tell you what's GovTech and what you're gonna do, where to reach out for if you have some questions. Then we have the hands-on national-wide project. So as much as possible, because we are an engineering organization, we focus on a lot of engineering work. We make sure our experience is as hands-on as possible as well. And we want you guys to actually have the opportunity to contribute to national initiatives. Not to mention technical mentoring. You work alongside with our engineers. Then closing, we do organize events for you guys to get together with other fellow interns, attend workshop organized by our engineers, hang out. But of course, with COVID-19, there's a lot of changes at play right now. Right now, our interns are really working virtually if possible because of all the measures in place. But before that, it was all physical. But nonetheless, we try to make sure the experience is the same as the one before COVID-19. So you can see some of the pictures here. So interns having fun, attending workshops, working together. Okay, I see a lot of questions popping up. Let me just try to see if I can answer them. Okay, so for the internship, right, one of the question was, is the internship after A levels? It's open all year round. It depends on availability of the project itself that you want to take part in. Of course, when you can commit to that timeline. So there's no fixed date. There's no hard and fast rule saying that, oh, you must join us in August and complete in October or November. No such thing. So it's really on availability on both sides as well. So let me try to answer the questions later on. Let me just move on. Oh yeah, so Shireen, if possible, you can maybe help me answer some of the questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, answering. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, this example of the projects, right? Don't worry, I'm getting on to this. So some of the projects, I'll be sharing the perspective, the internship experience for two interns, Ray and Songguan. So they are all working in my department. For example, for Ray, she completed an internship in March. She joined us in January. She joined the IoT penetration testing team, and she's previously from Hwa Chong. So let me just quote her. She felt that the environment, the whole experience was very nurturing and it was fulfilling more than what she expected. She grew both as an engineer and as a person. So her area of expertise or her task is that she was tasked to research on Bluetooth Low Energy and its vulnerabilities, and if possible, build some proof of concept exploits. So I'm going to show a video of her work. So of course, this is not everything about what she do, but really wants some short snippet of what she did. And because I'm playing the video through Zoom, it might be a bit laggish, so I'll narrate through as well. So for her project, right, what she's going to demonstrate is how she hacked a smart bulb. So basically, these are very typical smart bulbs you can find online, commercial off the shelf, and they normally come along with their applications or their apps. You know, like for example, what she's going to do is she's click a button, send command. Okay, so do bear with me if the video is very laggish. I will still bring you guys through. Okay, so what she's going to do is she's going to solder on some pins so that she can access the hardware itself via the serial ports. So why she want to do that is that she want to extract the firmware from the hardware. Okay, so now she's trying to get into the firmware, get into the device. Okay, now she's in. Next, she extracted out the firmware. She trying to do reverse engineering for secrets. I think these are very common techniques because in most of these devices, they communicate through a very special communication means or protocol or even encryption, encrypted packets. So you getting out all these extra keys or secret keys, right, allows you to actually send specially crafted commands to the devices. So next, she's going to use what she discovered to spoof a fake command into the network, basically to the light bulb. Okay, so you can see in this very short video, she managed to send a command into the network. Okay, so that's some of the stuff that she did for internship. So next, I'll introduce Songguan. He's really a very interesting guy. So he's with me, doing a offensive cloud research, and he joined us in May, and he's leaving sometime next week. So basically, his 3 months his internship period is finishing up. And previously, he's from RJ. He's currently right now in NUS, pursuing second year in com science. So a fun fact is that he actually joined us last year. So he's actually a returning intern. He joined us last year in Jan to June after his NS before he went to school in NUS. So let me just highlight some of the key milestones in his internship, especially he's still an intern right now, so I can share a bit more on the milestone the things that he did. So he came here is to help us to contribute to our understanding of offensive cloud security. So he helped us build a vulnerable AWS environment using Terraform, spin up cloud services. Then next, he actually contributed to some of the global projects like Paku and CloudGoat. You guys can actually Google about them. These are cloud related or AWS related tools. Then we also asked him or challenge him. It's really a stretch goal. Mentor him actually to teach him to report or discover vulnerabilities on government website, and he managed to report 11 valid issues with one high finding. So I think on top of that, what's really interesting within his 3 months, he also went on to do his AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. So what's Project Paku? So one of his tasks actually is to contribute back to the global community. So Project Paku is a open source AWS exploitation framework developed by Rhino Security. So it's like it's a bit like Metasploit, but it's really for AWS. And what he did was he actually created some modules and improved the tool itself. And this was actually accepted by the project team. So now soon his work can be used by the global community. So next is Project CloudGoat. So if you guys are aware or you guys are keen about cloud security, right? CloudGoat is probably one of the go-to tools as well because it's a vulnerable by design AWS deployment tool, same organization that built them, Rhino Security Labs. Then what this tool is about is that this tool helps to spin up vulnerable AWS services or applications within the AWS environment so that you can actually perform some of these offensive cloud TTPs for you to learn more about cloud security. So if you go on to CloudGoat GitHub right now, right, one of his lessons or one of the scenarios actually built by Songguan. So he contributed to the global community and now it's available to everyone. So as I mentioned earlier, in GovTech, even though we serve at 5.64 million, really our impact, we hope to create a much wider impact, not just the 5.64 million, especially in our GovTech CSG. A lot of these possibilities are available to you. Okay, let me just take a quick pause here and look at the questions. How many flags are there for this presentation? So if I say 2, you guys will stay to the end, is it? But anyway, I'll just be straight up. There's only one flag. There should be only one flag per presentation. Correct me if I'm wrong, James.
Maybe we can add more if you feel like it, but minimally there's one.
Yes. Minimum age for internship. I think as long as you're a student, we don't see why you can't join us. You demonstrate passion and of course ability. I wouldn't say there's a minimum age as per se, but it's more of if you are pursuing studies, but normally our interns are at least a polytechnic or JC age range. Then we have, so this is a piece of suspected vulnerability of personal data. Okay, I think there's one question by Ben. If one tested the suspected vulnerability with his own personal data, in what case did not infringe. Don't worry. So as long as within reasonable grounds, you tested with your own data, do let us know what's the test account when you submit the vulnerability. It's more for us to actually understand what happened and do some basic investigation. But we really appreciate your effort here. Of course, I mean, you don't bring down any service or you don't purposely run any exploit. What we want is really, you hope that you demonstrate that kind of restraint as well. To understand, if you know that there's a suspected vulnerability, just give us the evidence, like maybe this software version. It's good enough for us. We can assess that. Don't need to run the exploit itself. We do encourage responsible disclosure. Okay, some questions. Where does the internship take place? Right now, because of COVID-19, the internship take place at your home. So it's all virtual right now. Are you expected to have the required skills? Don't worry about it. What we are looking out for is really passionate individuals. So if you demonstrate the interest, and even though you at this point in time you may not have that skill, but naturally the internship is a place whereby you can hone that skill. Naturally, if you have zero experience, come in, come in, join us. We will teach you. Of course, there is always a thing about supply, demand, time and space. Sometimes there's really a lot of applicants. We may not, or we ourselves, the engineers may not have the capacity to mentor the applicants. That's why a certain period you're unable to get a project. But I believe all year round, we do not discriminate. What we are looking at is really the passion. Even though you may not have the certain skill at this point in time, but that doesn't mean that you cannot have that skill later on. Okay, let me just try to answer the questions later. Yeah, a bit short on time, but do keep the question coming. I would love to answer them. So next, I'll just share more about the Smart Nation Scholarship. So the Smart Nation Scholarship is jointly offered by GovTech, IMDA, CSA, allows you to study in the top universities and allows you to embark a career. If you take on a SNS scholarship and attach to GovTech, allows you to embark a career with GovTech upon graduation. So basically for the scholarship, upon completion, you will be joining us as an engineer in the TAP program, Technology Associate program. So as mentioned earlier, it's offered by these three agencies, but for us, of course, I'll be sharing more from the GovTech perspective. So this is Ether, a GovTech and SNS scholar, Smart Nation scholar. So he's currently in Imperial, if I'm not wrong, taking on his master's. So he will be joining us, I think probably end of this year, as a technology associate, yeah, through the TAP program. So previously he was interning with us as well, in my team especially. Then he was doing some cybersecurity research and work as well to help out with our operations. So maybe I just share a bit more about the scholarship benefit. Like all scholarship fully paid for, and really is to give you that ability or opportunity to study in some of the top universities in the world. So I think naturally there's service commitment, but I think a lot of our scholars, if you check our GovTech Facebook page, we did a lot of interviews on them. We did a lot of sharing on them. So you know that this service commitment is an opportunity for you to serve, contribute back to the nation. So what we are looking out for, as long as you have a A-level result or equivalent polytechnic diploma and Singapore citizen, this also including PR who are keen on citizenship. Of course, you have a good CCA track record. You are going to pursue an ICT related degree program. But what's the most important thing is that you're passionate about technology and passionate to serve as well. This is what we are really looking for. So along the way, you might see a lot of QR codes here. Don't worry, I'll distribute the links on Discord. Okay, so that's for the scholarship. Next, I'll just share a bit more about the youth talent community. Basically, it's like our mailing list, or it's our group that we try to maintain, whereby you can network with some of our engineers, some industry professionals, make friends with all these like-minded individuals. So part of this outreach or this community group, right, we organize this our keynote event every year called Geek Out. It's a 5-day technology boot camp. So previously, I think before COVID-19, I will invite you to on-campus or certain our venue to have like 5 days of pure maybe a technology boot camp, teach you about various domains of technology, and that we end off with a hackathon or mini competition at the end as well. So likewise, like an internship, we expose you during the boot camp, right, to 5 different domains: application development, sensors and IoT, data science and ICT infrastructure. So more than that, in the boot camp, you get to interact with like-minded peers, interact with our leaders. We'll invite our senior management or other people in leadership role to come down and ready to share what is GovTech and how GovTech is actually driving all this Smart Nation initiative. And most importantly, it's ready for you to work together with your peers, network with them, have fun in these 5 days. But because of COVID-19, previously it was physical. Right now we are making changes to it. Do actually reach out to us if you are keen and to join our GovTech talent community. So more information about this year's Geek Out will be released subsequently. So do pay attention to that. Okay. So with that, I come to an end, I would say, to my sharing for the first few segments. So I just hope that you guys can really take away to understand that GovTech is not just another employer. For me, right, I think I believe, and most of our engineers, we believe that this is an organization that's invested in our growth. So don't see us as just another employer, but see us as an organization that can really help you grow your career, unleash that potential in technology. So with that, I'll move on to Q&A. I believe there's quite a bit of questions here. Okay, I love this question. What are some good ways we can improve our, I believe CS/CS is computer science and cybersecurity skills. What you're doing right now is really one good way. Joining all these events, capture the flag competitions. There is so much capture the flag competitions online as well, and it's free. You guys can join it. You can look up CTF time, Google CTF time, and you can see a lot of CTF competitions. Then some of the platforms you can use like that's free, like edx.org. You can use HackMe or even ValHub itself. Is really somewhere you can go for, or even Hack the Box. All these platforms are free. So maybe from my perspective, I'm a little biased towards open source or free products. I think there's a lot of resources out there. Maybe what you can do is I can share some resources on Discord later on some of the platforms you can use. Okay, so that's one question down. What languages do you use? I believe you are talking about programming language, right? So for programming language, in terms of exploit development or hacking or cybersecurity in general, I mean, if you tell me to script something, I'll definitely use Python, but that's not the case because the nature of our work, our line of work can be quite demanding. So there's no hard and fast rule saying it must be Python, because if this software is built using maybe in Java, we must be able to know or understand Java to do the reverse engineering. So something like that, there's no hard and fast rule, but I think the common languages that you know provide a very good foundation to learn other language if need to. So maybe some advice I can give is you can start off with a high level one and slowly try out different languages. High level ones could be like Python or Java. These are very good introductory languages to build that foundation skill. Oh, interesting question. Difference between CSA and GovTech. So I think in terms difference, I would say definitely the mission is very different. I think a lot of things you see today in the market, like SingPass, all this is built by GovTech. GovTech in general is not just about cybersecurity, you see. We have digital services that we provide to agency. We build products, digital products, software that citizens use as well. So our mandate, or rather, is ready to make to create making lives better through technology, empowering the nation, Smart Nation, the initiative through technology as well. So CSA is very focused on cybersecurity, maintaining the oversight of cybersecurity in Singapore. GovTech is focused on delivering on all these services, digital services, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, within the government sector, we are also leading the cyberspace as well. So we have two very different missions. So maybe I will let my counterparts in CSA to share a bit more about what the key difference between GovTech and CSA. Okay, so for BDP, it's reporting CSRF allow if involve manipulating the endpoint URL. So basically, it's really I do see BDP reports coming in for relating to CSRF, but normally they tag with something else. Maybe CSRF due to certain vulnerability, could be cross-executing, they bundle it together. So it really depends on the nature of the report. So I need to have a context. So it's very hard to say whether this is a vulnerability or not. But there are some rules there that we state out in the BDP policy. Do take a look at that. Okay, so far I stay about 4 minutes. James, is everything time okay?
Everything's good.
Okay, all right. So maybe before I end off, do you guys have any last questions? If not, don't worry, I'll be on Discord. You guys can actually just drop me a message or just tag me, mention me in Discord, and I'll try to answer as much as possible. So what I owe you guys is actually some links. I want to share some links with you guys on Discord. Basically, our CSG, Cybersecurity Group GovTech page, and the links to join for internship, Smart Nation Scholarship, and our youth talent community. And just now with some of the questions on where to learn cybersecurity or computer science skills, I'll put some links as well. So I'll try to focus more on the free ones because I believe really with internet right now is it helps to provide that balance, or rather take away that information asymmetry. So next up, so I already have nothing else. I believe all questions are answered. Then what's left is already as a technical sharing on day 2 by Max on iOS mobile applications, finding bugs on them in them. Then of course look out for our booth tomorrow, 10 to 3 p.m. So check out our GovTech room if you have something to talk to us. The voice room is available for use. We'll be there for you guys as well. So like I mentioned, some of the scholarship information you can check out. Really the interview that we did on the GovTech Facebook page, some of the videos. Then last but not least, since there's no more questions, I wish you guys all the best for the CTF. Thank you. Yeah, over to you, James.
All right, thank you so much, Chi-Hawk. Right, so now we'll technically have a less than 1 minute break to the next workshop. Next workshop will be hosted by Brian, an ex member of the SMU Whitehacks Society itself. So anyone who wanted to drink a drink of water, have a short toilet break, you may do so. And Brian will be sharing his video when he is ready. And yeah.
Hi, so good morning. Just let me just start my video. All right, so good morning. I'll be teaching you guys a little bit about basically a general red team attackers mindset, and also more technically about SQL injection. So I'm sure you guys have heard of it before, and to prepare you guys, I actually have a little workshop for you guys. Let me just get you the link. So let me just post in the chat. If you guys go to Whitehacks/Inedible, that's your slides and also your workshop for this session. So if you want to follow along, just let me just share my screen. All right, so if you have any questions along the way, just post in the chat and I'll get to it as soon as I can, okay?
Hey, Brian,
So,
can you full screen your slides?
Yeah. Wait.
Brian, I think maybe you start about a few minutes time. Some people are asking for breaks.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe we start at 10:05. Okay, so for those who are not going on breaks, yeah, some of you have been wondering about the loot crate. So as if you sign up before 17th of July, you guys will be receiving the loot crate. Inside is, as you know, is the hoodie, the lanyard, water bottle, power bank, webcam cover. All of it is custom made just for this event. They're all branded Whitehacks. So it's pretty cool. You only get one. You can't really buy it anywhere else. You will be receiving a call from the logistics company if they are unable to deliver it to you. But other than that, I am not sure of any notification like, oh, I'm coming today, that kind of thing. So just stay tuned. Some people have received it already. Some people receive it today, and latest you shall receive it will be next Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. So don't worry about that too much. But if it's like Wednesday and you haven't received it, just drop me a text on Telegram. I'll get it checked for you. Yeah. Brian, your screen is sharing the Telegram chat.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
That's about that. In there. Doing some stuff.
All right, those who are almost back will be beginning shortly in a minute, so get ready. Okay, feel free to start, Brian.
Yeah. So back to the presentation. So again, welcome to Whitehacks 2020, and I'll be teaching you guys about the attacker's mindset and as well some SQL injection. So firstly, I'm a year 2 computer science student at SMU, so just a little bit about me. And before we move on, I should mention that everything we learn here shouldn't be abused and should only be used for knowledge and also to be used on Whitehacks machines only. So just be careful about what you learn in this workshop and just be a responsible person. So the workshop playground is posted here as well as these slides. So once you guys are ready, I'm just going to move on to the first part of the workshop, which is about the attacker's process. So essentially, the process describes the sort of general mindset that I believe most red team attackers would normally have. So it's broken down into 6 phases where firstly you gather information about your target. So this could be things like um, yeah, could be things like searching through a company's website for any sort of bugs or going through their records. Then part 2 is more of a actively attacking their not attacking, scanning their services so that you actually find out even more information that's not available publicly. So the difference between 1 and 2 is that you are more active and you can be detected by the company when you start scanning services. So of course, after information gather, you'll be attacking the service itself. And part 4 is about increasing your amount of privilege, or in this case, access. And 5 and 6 are just about your cleanup steps. So it's about how you maintain access and put in backdoors, and then cover your tracks so you don't get caught. So to talk more about information gathering, it's like I said, it's the first step in any operation. So in this case, it's I have an analogy about detectives basically doing stakeouts. So you're not trying to draw attention to yourself. You're just trying to get information passively. Yeah, here are a few passive methods to gather information. One could be going through a company's trash. One could be social engineering, and another one could be internet scanning. Because with the advent of Google and Bing, all these really powerful search engines, attackers have had a few days essentially, just being able to scan companies' websites and search the entire internet without even getting caught. So there is a thing called Google hacking, and in fact, I want you guys to try out something. I want you to try something out with Google hacking. So Google hacking essentially uses a few keywords that take advantage of Google's advanced search features, and then it actually lets you exploit publicly available vulnerabilities on the internet. So I have a challenge for you guys right now, actually. Can you guys try to access other people's webcams? So just take 5 minutes, go to Google, go to Wikipedia, search up Google hacking, and search up webcams. So try to figure out if you can access other people's webcams. Just a quick one. Trust me, it doesn't take that long. It's a lot easier than you think. Construction.
That's unlucky.
Yeah, but okay. So just take a little bit of time. If you have any solutions, just put in the chat. When I first heard about this, I honestly thought it was impossible, but this is surprisingly easy. So believe that you can do it, and you definitely can do it. Any suggestions? Just type into the chat, yeah. Well, if you guys are on the slides, right, you see the next slide gives you the solution. So yeah, let's try something. Let's just try something to demo here. So if you take this, you search that up, right? It uses a Google advanced feature. So let's see, all these links represent some sort of vulnerability online. There is a no. Eventually you find one. I found 2 or 3, man. Come on. There you go. So what's happening is that Google has already searched all these things up, and by using these advanced features on Google search, you've exposed a webcam. So I've actually found cameras where you can actually control the camera's movements. You can actually ask the camera to zoom in. So just imagine how crazy it is that this is just available publicly. And I hope you guys find this pretty interesting or pretty cool, because it's really ridiculous how exposed these kind of cameras are, right? But never mind. So to explain a little bit why this happens, right? Search engines essentially index the internet. So indexing is about building a map of the internet, so that if you search for something, Google doesn't have to search Google doesn't have to search the entire internet to give you the results. Instead, since they already built a map, they can just tell you, oh, this result is in this location. But the downside of this is that if you're a developer and you don't configure your website properly, then what happens is when Google searches the entire internet, they will also search your private directories or expose sensitive data. So if you're going to software development, just keep this in mind. Try to adhere to best practices and don't ignore stuff like indexing and Google's search algorithms. So there's another thing you can do about enumerating and scanning services. So after you found a vulnerable website, for example, the webcam website, we can always ask, can we get more information out of this? For example, what kind of server are they running on? How are they hosting the service? What kind of database are they running? And also, what kind of environment they have. Because the more you know about a website, the more you have an opportunity to find vulnerabilities. And the more vulnerabilities you have, the easier it is to hack it out essentially. So one example I can give you is that every website has a robots file. So I mentioned before that Google will search your entire website, right? But you can actually prevent Google from indexing certain things if you have a robots text file. So just spend about 2 minutes, go on to google.com/robots.txt, and you should be able to see what I mean by that. So Google itself has defined a few paths on google.com, or a few files on google.com that they don't want anyone finding, or at least they don't want their Google search engine to be automatically finding online. So I'll just leave you guys 2 minutes to just check it out and just explore what the robots file is. And if you're curious, right, every website actually has a robots file. So you can go to facebook.com/robots, you can go to YouTube, you can go, pretty much every website has a robots file set up properly. So of course, because it's available publicly, more often than not, robots files are actually pretty useless. They expose very little sensitive information, and they just give you general public information about what's not supposed to be searched up. However, we all know that developers always make mistakes, and there's always going to be mistakes made. And sometimes when you check the robots file, you might actually notice that they left a sensitive file exposed, because maybe developers said, oh, I don't want my index, I don't want Google search to find this file. But in doing so, they've exposed that file on the robots text file. So just quick hands-on, just click on this link if you want to, but go to the workshop and you should be able to figure out a little challenge for you. So I'll just leave it as that. I'm gonna move on to the next slide. If you have any questions, just put it in the chat or just turn on your microphone.
Oh yeah, the
Right.
microphone is muted, so they can't really. They'll just be hearing you.
Just put in the chat then. And don't worry, I think if you have any questions, you can always put it out there. Really like this. Or if you prefer to just privately message me, that's fine as well. Yeah, I'll assume that you guys are following along pretty well. So I'll move on to the part about gaining access. So for this workshop, we'll be talking about SQL injection. So SQL injection is just a way for you to gain access to databases online by exploiting some weaknesses in how developers build their websites. So just a quick crash course on the SQL. It's essentially a sort of programming language or a querying language that you can use to ask databases for data. So SQL is useful because it lets you declare what kind of data you want to get. So you can say, yeah, just a quick crash course here. So for SQL, right, you store your data, you store your table. Sorry, you store your data in tables. So you have tables with multiple rows of data, and every column describes a certain field or certain piece of the data. So for example, let's say I have a products table. So this table is in my database, right? It's named the products table, and it has columns like product name, tag, price, stock, and type. And every row describes a certain data entry. So just keep this in mind whenever you're doing SQL injection, that you have tables within a database. So database has a table, database has a table, database has a table. So to get data from the database, we need to firstly select the columns that you want. So back to the table, let's say I want to find the product names and the price. So I'll say select product name and price. Then we say we need to select it from the table that we want, and we only keep the rows that meet a certain condition. So the general structure of the SQL query, the most basic structure is select columns from table where certain conditions apply. So just for a quick example, if you want to get a table of, if you want to get this entry, the hand soap entry, I could say select P name from products where type equals to soap. So it's very declarative, like there's no, it's very straightforward essentially. So just don't worry about SQL. If you've never done SQL before, just follow this very basic structure for this workshop. There will be nothing more than, this will be the extent of what we need for SQL. Yeah, so select product name from products where section equals to soap, and it will return you the just that one table. And you notice the columns that you select are the columns that you receive, and the rows that you receive are based on the condition you give. So ultimately, our goal is to put in code into these queries such that we can create side effects. And when I mean side effects, I mean it releases information that is extra. So stuff that we don't want stuff that developers don't want you to receive, but you inject code that gives you the information anyways. So if you guys have any questions about SQL, just raise it up and I'll pause a little bit. But once we're talking about SQL, we can talk about SQL injection. So essentially, like I mentioned, SQL injection is just a way of running unauthorized SQL code on databases. And to do injection, we had to find vulnerable parts of the website first. And normally, to search for vulnerabilities, we'll type in these kind of queries. So if you have a text field, you just put in these types of strings, and you look for any sort of weird or unexpected behavior, and that kind of clues you in that these such fields are actually vulnerable. And don't worry about the syntax, because I think we can explain this way later. So if you go back to my workshop website, you can look for any sort of text fields that are vulnerable. So, like I said, I set up 3 such fields here, but only one of these are actually vulnerable. So just spend about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to attack the website and try to find out if there's any sort of issues with the website. Right, so it should be pretty simple to just brute force this, right? So let's assume that you're on my website, and you put in this, it doesn't work, nothing happens. Doesn't work, nothing happens. Doesn't work, okay? Ay, ay, ay. Keep crashing out. Hold on, some technical difficulties. This is supposed to give you a search field. I'll be overloaded. Oh no. Okay, sorry about that. I think the workshop website is a bit facing some issues right now. But don't worry too much. You get to try this out when you're doing your CTF tomorrow. So just keep in mind, if you want to find these vulnerabilities, you can use these search strings to essentially find SQL injection vulnerabilities. Sorry about that. So to first understand why SQL injection works, right? You need to think about how a developer could build a search feature. So we mentioned before that you want to say, oh, select pname tag from products where section equals to some sort of category, right? So what if you want to make the category dynamic? So we have this query, and remember that this was the string that we want, right? So let's say we want to let the user change the section itself. So we'll have some input, we'll have the closing part here, and we have the opening part here. So select the product and tag from products where section equals to, then you put user input here, right? So just be careful with this one closing quote and this opening quote here. So what happens is that if the input has something that is expected, like let's say soap, then the resulting query is correct, right? Select pname from blah blah where section equals soap. And everything is closed off. You open the quote here and you close the quote here. Because quotes always need to be matched. Opening must always be closed. Close must always be open from. But what if we put in our own quote into our input? So let's say we select some names and tags from products where section equals to open quote, but then we put a closing quote into our statement. So what happens is that our query becomes opening quote, closing quote. Then suddenly the database sees this as the data, right? And it treats this as extra code. So whatever we put in at the end of this statement actually becomes an injected SQL injection. And if you notice, there's actually a closing quote at the end, right? And like I mentioned, every opening quote must be closed, and every closing quote must be open from. So the reason why I put a dash dash at the end here is because, yeah, let's just explain it too. We put a opening quote at the start so that we can prematurely close the opening quote at the start. So the query expects text data, but instead, when we put in the quote, we trick the database into thinking that this isn't text data anymore, but more rather it's the part of the SQL injection code. So we also place the dash dash at the end so that we can denote an inline comment. So anything to the right of a comment is essentially ignored by the database. And the reason why we want to do this is because there is a closing quote at the end, and we don't know how the database is structured yet. So we just want to remove that last quote at the end. Apologies. So we can't.
I think we should go for a short, like 5-minute break in case
Yeah.
like it's for a while. Yeah, so maybe like 2-3 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, just
take a short break.
try the website. Hopefully it still works, but I should have. I think it should be alright. Really bad luck, huh?
Brian, I sent you the on a PM. Check it out.
Post now. I'm not sure I'm not sure if you can deploy it fast, man. But let me see. Right. So just check this out. This is going to be similar to what we were doing. Okay, I hope everyone's still here because I think we can proceed with the presentation if that's okay with you guys. Yeah, so just to try out how SQL injection works, right? You can try out the Portfigure lab. Essentially, they give you a text field you can try to attack yourself. So it's not illegal in the sense that they've really given you permission to try it out. So it's just about testing your skills. Ultimately, all SQL injection works in a similar fashion. We are looking for ways of changing the query such that it creates unintended side effects. So in this case, the OR 1 equals 1, the OR equals 1 equals, sorry, the OR 1 equals 1 essentially is a way for us to dump all data. So if you understand why the codes are placed there, right? I'm gonna move on to explaining why we use OR 1 equals 1. So the reason why we put in OR 1 equals 1 is because 1 equals 1 is always true, right? And the conditions actually have a specific format. So 1 equals 1 is a way for us to put in a always true statement into the injection. So in programming, OR has a very specific meaning. So OR just means that given two values, if one is true, always return true. It's the opposite of AND, where AND means that if either one is false, we return false. So in this case, we want to dump all information, right? So if you put in OR 1 equals 1, what we're saying is that to the database, no matter what, give me that data. So let's say I'm selecting some data from the table. As long as the data exists, right, I'll always return it. So what's supposed to happen on the website is that if you use this OR 1 equals 1, it will actually release every single bit of information that's on the database. So it'll return you all the food products. That's the theme I was going for, but if you go to Portfigure, you can try it out here first. Give me a second. Yeah, so, okay. So this was meant to be the hands-on with the website, but yeah. Let's use, wait a minute. Just, I'll sign up for the Portswiggle account and I think that's the siren. Well, what? Yeah. So this is the example site that I sent you guys. So just access the lab and it should give you this description, right? So first things first, you can find a search field. This is the search field. This is my first time using this as well, so let's both explore this together. Okay, so here's a quick little update. So if you notice when you search, right, this one's a little bit more interesting because they ask for there's no actual search field, but if you look at the URL, there's a category equals to something, right? And this is actually your query parameters. So this is where your search information is being sent to the database, right? So the cool thing is that we can actually change this piece of the URL and it actually affects the SQL. So if we type in our search query into this area here, first we can actually affect what we search for, right? So this is where we can inject our query injection now. Try a few. Oh, I caused an issue. So I think there's the issue with the URL. So replace the spaces with plus signs, and it should. Let me try something out. Yeah, so if you notice here, they actually use plus signs to denote spaces in the URL, right? Because in URLs you can't have spaces. So what this website does is that they take the spaces and they convert to plus signs. So for us, since we need spaces, this is what we want, right? We replace every space with plus, and it should work. Oh man. Maybe if I try out without the. Oh, there you go. So I hope this gives you a little bit of insight of how a attack generally works. It doesn't normally work the first time or the second time, but it's about brute forcing and like just really trying out different variations of the attack. So initially I had a semicolon here, but turns out this website breaks if you put a semicolon. So yeah, if you put in code plus or plus 1 equals 1, that's how you get the website to essentially inject data. So I hope that was a little bit of a fun. All right, any questions about that? Yeah. Yeah, Dan. Don, sorry. Yeah. All right, nice. So Don posted the yeah, nice. So that essentially gives us a way to get all data from a table, right? So I mentioned before that with SQL, you have data stored in tables. So tables represent some sort of group of things. So while we can retrieve all the products in the table, I think it's a lot more useful if we can find user information or other sort of tables, right? So all 1 equals 1 will never give us extra information from other tables, but what we can do is we can use the union operator. So this is another bit of SQL that I'll need to introduce to you guys. So union is just a way for us to join data from one query to another query. So I mentioned before, a query is just asking the database for information, right? So if you want to ask the database for information from multiple tables, what you do is you use the union operator. So let's say I have 2 tables like users and products. If the query is built on products only, so if the query is only asking from products, we can use the union operator to essentially ask for information from the users table as well. So, like I said, previously we had this query, the pname and tag from products. If we type the whole thing, then union select username and password from users, what happens is that it will take username and password and it will add it to our query from the previous exercise. So this is just how we take a vulnerable SQL search field and just expose it even more. This is how we get data from other tables. So of course, there are some limitations with union operator. Because in this example, we have the original query asking for pname, and that's it, right? So if you ask for username and password, what happens is that the columns don't actually match up. So pname has no matching column here, and username, so username and pname match, but password can't go to any table, can't go to any column. So the database will just say, oh, sorry, this doesn't make sense, and it'll just crash. That's how SQL is. So there are a few requirements that you have to think about when you do a SQL injection. So firstly, you must have the same number of columns, and secondly, the data types must be compatible. So what I mean by compatible is that you can't put you can't put text data into a column for numbers, or you can't put like a true false data into a column for text. So you're thinking, if I don't know how the admin has set up the database, then how am I supposed to discover this kind of how am I supposed to know, right? Because for all you know, there's no reason why your query has just products or just the price. Just maybe a bit confusing, but firstly, we want to find out without reading the source code, we're going to find out how many columns we need to search for. Because, like we said, when we say select username, password, or select products and price, we need to know how many columns there are in the select query. Because we need to know how many columns to pull from a union query, such that we can add it to our data. So to figure out how many columns we need to pull, right? We can use the order by command. Another bit of SQL. If you guys need some time to absorb the SQL syntax, just send a message. But if you guys are okay, just if you guys are okay, just let me know, yeah. So normally order by does what it says, right? It orders the results by a certain column name. But the weakness in order by is that it also accepts the index of columns. So let's say I have a column like the previous products table. This is column 1, column 2, 3, 4, and 5. God damn it, why is this happening? So if we inject the so these are the indexes of the product table, and you notice there's only index 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. No matter what the table is set up as, the indexes are always going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So in this way, we don't need to know the names of the columns, and this helps us a lot because in a real life scenario, you normally wouldn't get the name of the column in the first place. So the strategy is that if we keep injecting order by queries, eventually we'll reach a number that's beyond the number of columns that we have. So if you inject order by 1, we get select p name from products where category equals to things, order by 1. So if you put in order by 2, yeah, this is meant to be hands-on, but since the website's a bit broken, I'm just going to give you a solution. So you keep injecting queries into the, you keep injecting SQL into the query, and what you get is that once you reach order by 4, you realize that the error is thrown, right? So this kind of tells you that the query is only asking for 3 columns. So we only know there's 3 columns in the query that we need to union. Any questions? Let me see if they have a lab for this as well. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't really test this out right now, but just if you have any questions about this, I can try to go through this more examples, but I think the lab would have been the best way of testing this out. So if there's no questions, I'm gonna assume that everything's fine. So once we know that there's 3 columns we need to search for, right? Select something, something, something. We don't know exactly what the columns are, but we know that there's 3 columns we need to select. So in our head, we know that our union query is going to be union select 3 things from some table with some conditions. So the next part is going to be, given that we have the 3 columns that we need to query, right? Which column is the most useful for us? So we can try searching for, I mentioned before that the columns need to have the same data type, or they need to have compatible data, right? So the way we look for compatible data is that we try to union specific information into the columns and see if any error is thrown. So if you put in these queries into my website, what should happen is that no error should be thrown when you put in the first, second, or third query, which tells you that you can join or you can union text data into all 3 columns. So we know that all 3 columns are actually quite useful for storing text information. So column 1, column 2, column 3, we don't know the names yet, but we know that we can put text data inside. All right, so any questions about that? So just a quick summary before we move on. The idea is that for a database, you need to use a query, like select something from product to a section equals something. So what we're doing in this step is that we're trying to figure out what the query looks like so that we can inject data. Because the first step in figuring out how to do SQL injection is to figure out how the query is set up, right? So we need to figure out this part of the query. So select p name and tag. So what we've just done with this injection is that we figured out that there's three columns within this website's query. So I'm really hoping this still works. Never mind. So now you know that we have 3 columns and we have text data that can go to any 3 column, right? So all columns can accept text data and we have 3 columns. Just keep that in mind when you're doing the rest of the presentation and workshop. Yeah. So let's say we want to get username and password. To add extra columns to our query so that it matches, right? So we have username and password, but we need an extra piece of information. What we can do is we can just simply add data to our query. So we say select pname 0 hello. What happens is that it will return you just this extra field called hello. So if you want to select username password, you just put in hello. So that we have 3 columns. So the idea is that you just want to match the number of columns in our injected query with the original number of queries. So the original query had 3 columns, so we just add an extra hello so that our union selection has 3 columns as well. So this column has no meaning, it's just there to fill in the extra columns. Right? Yeah. So yeah, then this is meant to be the workshop, but let me see if I can find another lab. But I think, give me a second. So let's search for a lab together, yeah? Continue learning, let's see what it says. What is the solution here? Yeah, there you go. Wait, there you go, union attacks. I see one. There you go. Same information here. Oh, perfect. Let's try this out. So let's just do this together. Yes, I'm not sure what this workshop is going to be, but this should be perfect actually. So let's see what's going on here. All right, so the first thing I realized is that there's no search field again, so we're going to be using the SQL string up here. So again, like I mentioned, if you're going to search how to union, right, you first need to find out how many columns are being queried. So let's do what we did just now, or union. So to find out the number of columns, you just use order by. Forgot about that. One dash. That's fine. Two. Wait, did I break it again? Category goes to. Let me see if this works first one. I'm using the wrong code. So the thing is, we need to match codes, right? So the code needs to be the same. Yeah. Okay. So we use small colons. Sorry. Order by. That's fine. Okay. Oh, there you go. That's fine. So now we know there's at least 2, right? So if you type 3, then there's at least 3 columns. Type 4, 4, there you go. So 4 is where it breaks, right? Which means that we know that there are 3 columns in this query. So this is just how we figure out how many columns there are in the query. So we tried 1, we tried 2, we tried 3, and everything was fine. But once we did 4, you notice we got this internal server error. So we know that this isn't anything to do with the website being down, but actually something inside the server itself that's broken. So we can assume that this is the database throwing an error, causing this internal server error. So you also noticed previously I redid what we did before, where I searched for or 1 equals 1. And you may think that since it's not part of the lab, it's not really useful, but what this does is it lets me figure out what kind of, firstly to validate that this thing actually still works, and secondly that it tells me what kind of code this specific query uses. So I can confirm that it's using a single code. So the idea of this is that with red teaming, with attacking websites, you always have to search for as much information as you can. So even if I already knew that this piece of query is actually vulnerable to SQL injection, I'm still going to try to test out all these different things. So first step, validate that it still works, and then try out the ordering, because you never know if your order query is not working or it's wrong, right? So yeah, this is just the general mindset you should have when you're doing SQL injection. Just keep trying, keep brute forcing, and eventually it'll work out. Wait, so how do I solve this lab? Is there like a how do I? So I'm not at 3 columns. So what do I do? Oh, you need to finish it, right? Wait, how do I? Anyone knows? How do I finish this lab? Never mind, but let's just leave it as that for now. So we know that there are 3 columns in the query. So perfect, actually matches the slides. So we know that, yeah, we know that there are 3 columns in the query. Matches the slides perfectly. So let's see if the website's still working. Yeah, no. Okay, never mind. Moving on. We know that there are 3, and then we got to select. Okay, so what I'm doing here was that I gave you guys the table name users, and I gave you guys the column names. What if you don't know all these things? Actually, hold on, shit. So let this start from the top. So in this slide, we're asking about how we increase the number of columns, right? So let's say I have 2, how do I make it into 3? But what if I have 3 and then make it, and I want to reduce the column from 3 to, let's say, 2, but I still keep all the information I need. So you notice that only the first column, this didn't work, never mind. Only the first column is giving you only the first column is being shown on the website, right? So how do we store both the username and password into one column? For that, we use the concat. So concat is concatenation. So it's about joining strings together, joining text data together. So for SQLite, I'll just tell you right now, we're using SQLite. So for now, just use the 2 lines, and the 2 lines lets you join text data together. So if you want to return username and password into one column, you can just use the 2 lines, right? So if I use username, 2 lines, comma, 2 lines password, it just puts these 2 things into one column. So that's just the gist of it, and that's how you can reduce the number of columns in the query. So if you have, let's say, select P name from products with 1 column, you can say union select username, comma, password, join it together, and you can get this piece, and the columns will match. Yeah, you can't do this right now, but the solution is just we're going to put both username and password into the first column. So we just union select username password, concatenate together with two empty fields here. But this isn't too much of a deal. We can go through this during the actual workshop. But let's say we don't know the table that we're going to select data from. So I gave you the users table and I gave you username and password. But what I'm assuming is that, oh god, not again. Where's the, god damn it. So has anyone figured out what this is about? Because I have no idea what's. Am I supposed to keep searching for more stuff or? Okay, let's just blindly test this. So we know there are 3 columns here, right? Oh, okay. Wait. Give me a second. That's silly. I mean, we solved the same issue, right? So yeah, I saw the solution. So it's a different method. So essentially, what they're doing is that if you select null, we're saying that this actually matches. If I use just one, so okay, the idea is the same. So this fails because again, the database doesn't match, right? So union select null doesn't match the 3 columns they need. But if you select null, you're asking for 2 columns and it doesn't match the 3 columns, it also throw error. But if you use 3 nulls, you're matching the number of columns with the number of columns in the query. So that's actually causes it to solve. Thanks, Axel, and thanks, Don. So this is the same idea as using order by. So if order by, we can actually figure out that there are 3 columns. So order by 1, 2, 3, and we hit 4, it fails. So that was a little bit of a hiccup, but yeah. They actually mentioned both methods here, order by and union select. All right. So we know there are 3 columns here, but now I think the next part is going to be looking for how to union. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys how to union how to figure out which tables to find in a database. So let's say you don't know that there's a users table, or you don't know that there's any extra tables you might want to be interested in, right? So what happens if nobody has linked my user table with the columns? So what if nobody gave you the data? So the most important part of SQL injection, I feel, is metadata discovery. So it's about asking yourself, what's the database I'm attacking? How do I get more information about the database? And how do I figure out all the different types of tables and columns within the table, within the database? So this is similar to the scanning and also, I guess, passive information searching fields of the attacker's mindset. So before we can gain access, right, we need to first search for information, and secondly, enumerate the services to find out more information about our target. So this type of SQL injection is similar to the attacker's mindset, the first 2 parts, where you're searching for information. So just to do a quick summary, to do a injection, to do a union attack, we need to know how many columns, which columns have the right data type, what tables are available, and what columns are available. So previously I gave you the tables and columns, right? But databases. Yeah, we need to find out the column names and also the table names. So to do that, we have to search up the metadata. And the cool thing about SQL is that we actually have metadata stored as the uh, actual tables within the database. So to figure that out first, right, we need to figure out which database we're attacking, because different databases and different database implementations have different syntaxes for this. So once again, metadata is just data about the database itself, and all database services actually store this data, all of this metadata within the database. So if you search for these things, if you select SQLite version, like I mentioned, we're using SQLite, right? If you search SQLite version, it actually gives you the database information. So let me just pull up my terminal. I'm just gonna share a little bit of a thing with you. Just give me a second. Where did it go? Yeah. Okay, let me just increase the font size here. So three. So like I mentioned, if you type select, SQLite version, one. So wait, hold on, give me a second. Actually, I have an idea. Just take a 2-3 minute break to try out the labs on the website, and also just to absorb the content if you want to. I will set up my website locally. I think I can figure out. I think I know a way to give you guys the website still. Just give me a second, yeah. Okay, that works. So unfortunately, you guys can't access this because I think the website on the database itself is crashed. But never mind, this is a local version of my website, so I'll just run through the examples here, and hopefully this gives you guys a bit of a clue as to what's going on. But what I had initially planned was that if you do stuff like this, this is meant to be a way for you to start the database. But if you look at this, wait, why is it full screen? Oh, let me skip full screen. Can you stop doing this? So if I type this in, right, you inspect this, you notice that you go to the console, there you go. It actually releases the information here. So this is meant to be where the data is going to be leaked out on our website, but well, things never go the way you want to, right? So essentially what happens is that once you figure out the different types of, back to the presentation. So what I planned for you guys to do was that you guys put in these queries. And since these queries are specific to different types of databases, what happens is that you can figure out the type of database that you're attacking, whether just by injecting these queries into the view. But yeah, so I'm using SQLite 3. I remembered, so no hands-on here. Sorry about that. But this is the solution. Just putting SQLite version in 00, you notice that you can actually figure out the database type. So, all right. So I'm not sure if this will be applicable to the Web Security Academy lab, since I'm not sure they use SQLite. But the idea is that if you need metadata for other databases, you can always search Google because all these things are available online, right? So as long as you have the syntax for how to get data about a database, you can use the exact same methods. So for this, we're just using SQLite. And we mentioned before that this is how you get SQLite data, right? So for SQLite 3, to get table names from the entire database, you can just use the SQLite master table. So over here, if I say select name from SQLite master, you notice that over here you get SQLite auto index, SQLite auto index, SQLite auto index users. So there's a pictures table, there's a users table, and there's a super secret table. So this is meant to be how you figure out how you get extra information. So no worries, I'll give you guys the secret flag later on if you just pay attention. So this is how you can get table names from the database, and column names, the same thing. Instead of searching for a name, you search for SQL. So if you select SQL from SQLite master, it will return you all the different things. So let's say I have my super secret table, right? Over here, if I using select, let's say SQL from SQLite master, where name equals a secret table. What's happening is that I'm basically asking for the SQL data of this super secret table. And what it returns is actually the original structure of the table. So you don't have to worry about the syntax, but you can notice that, for example, let's say I had a users table with a username and password field. If I run SQL, so if I ask for SQL from the master table, where the name equals to the table of the users, it should return me a string that essentially asks me, oh, there's a username text, which is the primary key, and there's a password that's also text. So that's just how you can get metadata about the table coming out. So from the command, we can determine that there's actually username and password table columns. Sorry. So this was meant to be the super secret table that you guys discover using the techniques you guys learned over this workshop. But I think since it's not available, I can just run through this with you guys. So this is what we dumped out, right? So once again, let's recap the entire thing. We first attacked the database by putting 1 equals 1 to see if there's any issues. And we notice that if you do that, it dumps all the beautiful pictures. And my God, I really I was hoping you guys get to see these pictures, but you know, it's all right. Then we know that there's actually an issue. I told you guys that's a users table with a username and password. So firstly, we want to find out the number of columns in this, right? So if you type order by 1, no error, order by 2, order by 3, eventually we hit order by 4. There's an SQL error here. Can I zoom this out actually? Yeah, I can. Order by 4 is an SQL error. So we know that there's 3 columns that we need. Then you guys has the username, password, from users table, right? And you won't notice in real life, but I told you that the password, so now you can see there's Adam. They're basically all the passwords here. But now I'm asking, how do you get the other tables that aren't available to you publicly? So for that, we just do again select name, again 3 columns from master table. And from that, you get a whole bunch of tables. So we have pictures, we have the index of pictures, we have super secret table over here. So this was meant to be the thing that you had to expose. And if I select QL, where name equals to super secret table, you get this piece of text. So if you, I noticed it's a bit hard to read, but if you see over here, there's a, you can see create table, super secret table. There's text primary, key, and how do I look at it? No, let me just copy link address. So with URLs, right? Percentage 20 is just a substitute for space. So if you clear up the spaces, you can see a lot easier. So text, primary key, and data, text, not now. So if you read this, right, you notice super secret table has a key and has a data. So there are 2 columns to this table, which is just key and data. So if you've been following along, you should expect that there's going to be a key and data column name within this super secret table. So for the final exercise, maybe you guys can propose some solutions for this. Where did So if you have any suggestions, you can just ask me to type it in here because I think my website is broken. But in the future, it should work. So just let me know if you try it out in the future. Just try like use the website again. It should be available online pretty much indefinitely. So maybe when everyone's not using it, you know. So we know there's key, and we know there's data. Running key and data into 1 column, like we did before. 3 columns, we need to put in 3 from super secret table. Right. So this is the last part of my workshop. Type it in. So there's actually two flags here. So there's an end message, congratulations, you've completed the workshop, and it's actually a secret flag. So you can get it for, you can use the secret flag for bonus points. Just remember the format of the flag and figure out why the flag looks odd here. So thanks for your patience with the workshop, especially given the mess. But I hope you guys learned something about SQL injection and about the attacker's mindset. And I hope you guys can apply these, I guess, principles and also these techniques to your CTF tomorrow. So just as a quick summary for countermeasures to SQL injection, right? As a developer, I'm sure most of you are going to be interested in the software development. I think one key concern is that as a developer, you should be definitely wary of SQL injection and use techniques to prevent SQL injection. So the most easy way to just prevent SQL injection is use prepared statements. So prepared statements are just a template for you to put in data, and there's a bunch of stuff, but don't worry about this. Essentially, what SQL injection requires is that data is put in as code, right? But prepared statements essentially takes all data and it sanitizes it. So essentially, it converts all dangerous characters like quote, semicolon, and dash dash, and it turns it into a cleaner and less dangerous format. And it does it automatically. So that's the best you can do as a developer, essentially. So that's just a closing statement. We talked about the attacker's process and the different phases of an attack. We looked at Google hacking, and I hope you guys have more fun with Google hacking as well. We also talked about what SQL is and the robots text. And finally, we talked about how the injection actually works, the specific details of it, how the different syntax causes SQL to fail. And we talked about how you can discover metadata. And finally, we talked about just a little bit of preventative measures. So as a developer, just use prepared statements. So if you want to dive deeper into SQL injection, there's definitely more resources you can find online. So there are cheat sheets online that lets you basically figure out templates for how to attack the websites. So we have these cheat sheets, and we also have this multiple cheat sheets essentially, just giving you a template for like these code snippets for how you can attack websites. So any final questions? Just throw it out there, or just message me privately. I'll last 10, 20 minutes. Is any questions? If not, I hope you guys learned something about this, and I hope the lesson was really useful for you. I think there'll be a few CTFs that are purely about SQL injections, so you should have some fun with that. All right. I think that's all. Thanks for tuning in, and once again, thanks for your patience with the workshop.
All right, thank you everyone. So we'll be currently having our lunch break from right now to 1 p.m. Just do go enjoy your lunch, have a break, and come back to the Zoom room by 12:55. Any questions, you can always just PM me or type in the chat. Yeah, have a good break. Oh yeah, and I'll be closing the room in about a few minutes' time and opening it back up at 12:55.